If you're a new manager or leader, you may actually be losing the respect and authority and not even realize it. In this video, I'm going to show you 10 different ways you may be failing early as a new leader, but I will also show you how to rebuild and how to fix those issues. I'm an active operations leader, and I can promise you that even implementing a couple of these tactics are going to skyrocket your leadership journey and make you one of the top 1% of leaders. Issue number one, you're acting like a Mr. Know-it-all. Do you know somebody who you talk to and they always know everything? You even talk about sports and they just know everything, or whatever they say is right. That can be extremely annoying and deterring to people. So if you're going in and you're acting like Mr. Know-it-all, that you know everything, and you've just started in a company, I can promise you your employees are not enjoying this, and they're probably talking about it, and they're probably not really interested in following you, in listening to your authority. When you start as a new leader, be an underdog. If you think about it in boxing, maybe you got the underdog and then you got the world champion. When the world champion or the Mr. Know-it-all fails or loses, that's a big hit to his pride. But when the underdog fails, it's not that significant. So you will fail in your leadership role at one point. Just how soon will it happen? So if you go in there as an underdog, that you're listening to your employees, learning from them, making them feel that they know the information and that you're learning from them. When you fail or when something goes wrong, it's not going to be that bad, and you're not going to lose that authority and respect. So really focus on listening to your employees and not being the Mr. Know-it-all. Number two, you're implementing new processes or work instructions, policies without following up with your employees. I've done this many times early on in my career where I would implement some sort of process where I want my employees doing something. And then I would just communicate it out. Here's the new process. I want you to follow it, and never follow up. And then 6 months later, if it's related to a quality type process or something, it could be catastrophic because you were assuming that your employees were following it all the time, but they get busy. So the habit is never built. And that's the biggest thing. When you implement a new process, you should basically follow up weekly and look for consistency and compliance, and communicate when people aren't complying in a nice way. Communicate across, if it's multiple departments or if it's just in your own department, communicating the non-compliance. This way, when you end up going through and, after multiple weeks, you see constant compliance to it, you can say, okay, I'm going to stop, monitoring you guys. You've built the habit. If you think about habit building, they talk about 21 days, then use that as your marker. So when you see compliance for, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks straight, 100% compliance on that newly implemented process, then you're in a better state to let it go and let them continue to follow it, and maybe follow up in 6 months. But you'll have better compliance than if you don't follow up. Issue 3, you're overreacting to whatever the situation is. If you're in a meeting, somebody made a mistake, or somebody forgot to do something, and you're overreacting, you're yelling, or you're extremely impatient with your employees, they're going to easily pick up on that, and they're going to start hiding mistakes and hiding what's going on. You don't want your employees to get to the point where they're walking on eggshells around you and afraid to come to you and talk to you when they make mistakes. It is better that you're patient with them, even if they make mistakes. You want them to feel that they have that open connection where they can always come and talk to you when they made a mistake or forgot to do something. You want to keep that open at all times. So really focus on biting your tongue and not overreacting. Issue number 4, you're not consistent with how you treat your employees. So as an example, employees have outside lives. One employee comes to you and they want to start their day 30 minutes late and leave 30 minutes late. It goes against the standard schedule of the employees. If you allow that to happen, yet you don't allow it to happen for somebody else, you've created inconsistency in the way you manage your employees, and that will create negative work culture and negative environment. You have to be really careful on being consistent with your employees. One thing you could do if this happens, your employee says, hey, I need to start later for, the next 6 months because I have to drop off my son at school. Well, what you can do is you can say, okay, there's 2 ways to do this. You can say, okay, there's a legitimate reason for this, and it's for a period of time, and you can communicate this out to the rest of your team as well. If it's not fully a legitimate thing, they just want to do a shift change, slight shift offset, you can say, okay, I'll do it. However, if employees start coming to me complaining, then I'm going to have to pull it back. That's a good way to communicate to that employee as well. And I've had to do that in the past. That usually fixes situations. And I've actually had it where other employees come and complain, and I've actually had to pull it back, but I previously communicated to that employee so they understood. So it wasn't a shock when I came and said, hey, I need to move you back because I'm getting a lot of people that are sort of upset that they can't do that as well. So it's really critical. Be consistent in how you manage your employees. Number 5, you were hired as a leader and you're busy fixing everybody else's issues. Yes, you're leading your team, you're helping your team, you're supporting your team. Makes sense. But if you've been a leader for any period of time, you know that some employees can be more needy than others. And a lot of them take the easy way out and they just throw off their issue for you to solve, even though it's fully within their control and they have all the tools to fix the issue themselves. It's really important when your employees come to you with issues that if it's an issue that they don't know how to do something on a software application, what I do is I go over to their desk, I have them sit in the seat, I walk them through how to do it, but they're actually doing it to build the muscle memory, remembering how to do it. Maybe you'll have to do it again for that same scenario, but at some point they're going to know how to do it and they're just going to do it themselves. And they're probably going to be happy that they don't have to come and see you. So even though you might seem that employees like to throw things off, if you show an employee how to do something, a lot of the time they end up being actually happier that they can do it on their own and they don't have to come and see you. So that's really critical to make sure that you're training your employees to be able to solve problems themselves by walking them through and helping them along the way so that they can do strategic and critical thinking and solve those problems. Issue 6, you're hoping for a great outcome in your rather poorly planned meetings. So if you're not planning your meetings well, the meetings that you're leading, that you've booked to bring other people into, your leadership skill is not looking great to those people. They're not going to take you seriously, and you're continuing to lose authority with people. It's really important that when you're going to book a meeting, you know exactly what the purpose is, what your outcomes should be at the end of the meeting, and be completely prepared for that meeting. If you have a presentation or an Excel spreadsheet, whatever, make sure that you're at your meeting 5 minutes before. You have those documents all opened up, ready to go, and that you know exactly what the purpose of the meeting is and what the final outcome is. It's really critical to manage a meeting. It's not rocket science on running meetings. There's just some critical things. Know what the meeting is for, the purpose, know what the final outcome is, and make sure that you're well prepared. When you do those three simple things, if you don't do anything else, people are going to take you a little more seriously, and you're going to have a little bit of more authority in your meeting, when you're prepared. So it's really important to be prepared for your meetings. Issue number 7, you're letting small issues grow into big ones. So as an example, I will go to, let's say you're a manufacturer and your employees build cars, and there's a small little issue on the door. If you're aware of that, it's so much easier to go back and communicate that out or fix that issue when it's small versus it becoming a big issue and ending up in a serious recall. So it's really critical when you know about small issues in your work, whether it's an administrative issue or a manufacturing issue. It's always most critical to fix the issue when it's small so that it doesn't grow into a big issue. Because when things get big, your time is spent on that big issue, and it doesn't look good on you, especially when you knew that there was an issue in the first place and you never dealt with it. So when you see small issues, nip them in the butt, work on them. If an employee is not following a process, talk to the employee, explain, hey, you're not following this process. I need you following it. The benefit of talking directly to the employee while it's still small is that employee's probably going to go talk to their other coworkers and say, hey, the boss or the manager, and it ended up talking to me about this. So, hey guys, make sure that you're doing the same thing. You're doing it properly as well. It's almost like a marketing tactic. When you have conversations with your employees because they're not following something and you make sure you get them into compliance, you can almost promise that they're going to market that to the other people on the shop floor and the office. So it's dealing with small issues early on leads to basically no big issues later on. Issue number 8, you're leading everybody. You're treating everybody as if they have the exact same personality. There are so many different personalities out there. I don't have to communicate that to you, and you don't have to read a book. You know that within your own family. If you look at your kids, one kid, you can, they do something wrong, you can yell at, you can do all sorts of stuff, and they'll still do the same thing. Your other kid, they do something wrong, you just look at them the wrong way, and they won't do that ever again. So just in your own family, that people have different personalities. Therefore, if you're a leader, if you know within your own family, let's say even if you don't have kids, within your, maybe sisters, brothers, parents, uncles, people at the store, whatever, that everybody has different personalities. You cannot treat somebody the same way. You cannot talk to people the same way. You have to talk to them based on their personality and style to get them to come on board. Some things when you're trying to make a change in a company, some people, it takes a while for them to get past and they need to accept that they understand the purpose of the change. You can't explain it to them. They just need to learn through doing it, and then they come on board, and then they're not willing to leave. They like the process and they carry on. Some people, you tell them and they're on board right away. There's nothing else you need to do. So again, you have to treat everybody differently. You cannot treat everybody with you can't paint them with the same paintbrush, and you can't talk to them exactly the same way. You have to be really critical on learning everybody's different personality and talking to them in a way that that's going to motivate them to come on board with you and respect you. Issue number 9, you're becoming buddies with your coworkers. Especially if you're a new manager or a new leader, or you're new to leading. Forget about a new manager in a new company, but you've been doing it for 20 years. I'm talking really specifically here is someone who's moved into a leadership role for the first time. Even within your own company, you were buddies with people. Now you're leading your buddies. It's very difficult to break away from that. But it's in that particular case, it's very critical to break away and stop hanging out with your buddies after work, because you're not going to move into a real leadership role and have respect from those employees. They're just going to be your buddies. They're not really going to listen to you. It's going to be very difficult. If you've been doing this for many, many years as a leader in different companies, and you're able to, or you're capable to separate work and outside time, then you know yourself, and you know how you're able to work. For me, after doing this for many years, I can go out and play pickleball or whatever sport with my employees and be able to have a complete leader to coworker conversation back the next day within the company, and it has no effect on me. But it's really important. If you can't do that, you need to separate from your buddies and work on being a leader to those employees. Number 10, you forget what your job title is and the authority that it holds. A past operations manager that I reported to a few companies ago, he always told me that don't forget the power that you have within your title. Again, this is not about saying, hey, leaders and managers, they have power, they can force things on their employees. No, it's not like that. But you forget, sometimes I'm sure you forget that you actually have power to make change, and people, if they respect you, they're going to listen to you. So don't forget the power that you have to make change within your company as a leader. Always remember that you do have power, and when you use it in the right way and a respectable way, you can make things happen. Now, with all this said, you need to actually put these 10 different tactics into practice. And I will show you in the next video with a free template that you can print out and just focus on the next 30 days. If it's January this month, start February 1st, print the free template out, watch my next video, and I'll show you how to use the template and how you can implement these 10 tactics to basically stop failing as a leader early on and grow respect with your employees.